Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. This is Dipti Devkar, and it gives me immense pleasure to represent Bank of America at the Out and Equal 2021 Workplace Summit. Joining me are two of our Out at Work champion, Sai Sadi and Felix Selvaraj, and we are excited to share with you our journey in championing inclusion and sustaining our LGBTQ network in these unprecedented times. If we move to the next slide, so what you can expect in the session. Starting a new network chapter and sustaining, especially in this new normal, has its own set of challenges. Making a positive impact in virtual environment needs different set of approach, ideas, action, and we intend to cover the same. Before that, it is important you are aware about Bank's perspective on diversity and inclusion and why the same is so important to us followed by a peek into the legal status and progress of the LGBTQ community in India. Then we will deep dive straight into how we went about building the LGBTQ network chapter and sustained the growth in the new normal environment, followed by organization offerings supporting employees and their families during moments that matter most. If we move to the next slide, what you see over here but to begin with, picking a cue from the Out and Equal vision to achieve workplace equality for all, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, expressions, or characteristic. Bank in this matter has been a progressive employer and ensured it continues to operate in complete awareness of gender neutrality. Our driving force has been a commitment to diversity and inclusion and making company a great place to work and fostering co-culture of our values, one of them being realize the power of our people. We strive to help our employees reach their full potential as we strongly believe that diverse background and experience make us stronger. We respect every individual and value the differences in thought, style, culture, ethnicity, and experience. Our leaders strongly believe that equality is foundational to who we are. On this note, I like to bring in Sai for his perspective. Sai, you've been with the bank for about 8+ years and were officially out at work much before we started the network in India. What has been your experience on bank culture of inclusion?
Thanks, Dipti, for having me. Yes, I was out even before the India chapter was created 3 years back. So yes, there were certain specific things which were unique to bank, at least between what I worked among the organizations that I worked before, which were basically truly comforting. One of them, if I have to say, it's basically the culture. Which is basically the DNI is pretty much imbibed in the DNA of the bank, right? Diversity is actually embraced as well as celebrated. And then, in fact, as you rightly said, diversity of all kinds, including racial, cultural, ethnic, gender, sexual orientation being one of them, right? So I would actually say that we are as diverse as our planet, and on the other side, inclusion is something that we want to create and we want to sustain and better it always. If we have to say that where we can make our workplace so inclusive that everybody can bring their whole selves to work without any question or doubt in their mind, right? And where we also continuously challenge our unconscious biases. So whatever unconscious biases we may be having over a period of time, right? That's the culture which was very, very important. And the second aspect that I would bring up again is the management commitment, Dipti. And I think you have rightly put it in terms of the messages from the key leaders. So there is a direct message which is coming from the management, both at an enterprise level, even as well from the GBS side as well. So when I initiated a dialogue with the enterprise-wide leader, they were so happy that there was someone who already identifies as an out-at-work employee, and then they are trying to help make the workplace more inclusive. And immediately I was put forth to GBS management, and the GBS management was equally proactive in terms of initiating one-on-one conversations and discussions with both HR exec involved as well. So with the senior management and HR exec involved, just on one-on-one conversations, only with one person as well. So the number was not that important, but the importance was inclusion, right? So that was one. And third thing I would say is what is reflected in our policies and procedures. Policies could be the HR policies and the benefits, among others, where at an enterprise-wide we have that one, and where the GBS and the India management was quick to adopt all those important ones, right, which mattered. And in fact, the another important aspect is the focus on continuous awareness, whether it be the messages on the Flagscape, the communications coming from the enterprise teams, as well as the ongoing trainings that we have, which sensitizes all employees in terms of all the aspects of diversity and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, right? What are the do's and don'ts? Because sometimes it is the awareness levels which actually makes us behave in a certain manner, or maybe not. Maybe an environment which is hostile to a particular community may not necessarily be. May not necessarily be because someone deliberately wants to be hostile, right? It's just because. It's because of the surroundings and atmosphere. So that's where the sensitization is extremely important, and the banks focus on sensitization. And last not the least is that we also had the virtual chapter. So that also provided a great deal of insights, even though the GBS, the India chapter was not created by them, but a virtual chapter also provided additional avenues. So definitely all of these, right, actually helped us feel comfortable even before the India chapter was created, Adipti.
Great, Sai. Thank you so much. And this definitely reiterates bank philosophy and the ecosystem that gets built into encouraging everybody to bring their whole selves to work. On the next slide, what you're going to see, team, is, we will be shifting gear to understand the LGBTQ plus community in India. It has been 3 years into Supreme Court's historic decision to decriminalize Section 377. Felix, let me ask you here. You've been actively involved in volunteering work for this community. Can you share with us how have this community evolved over years? With social acceptance, education, employment, what has been the progress so far?
Hey, thanks, Deepti. I think it's a very important, like you rightly said, to talk about the reading down of Section 377 of all the different milestones the LGBT community in India has seen. I personally feel this is one thing that really stands out. If you look at, the community as it stands in general, we have definitely several problems. For example, if you just look at the transgender community, not being able to access education, high school dropout rate, which again then translates into not being able to find a job, be it corporate, non-corporate, all of it is all of that, plaguing the community, and it continues to plague the community. But does that mean we haven't seen any progress, with the Section 377 being read down? That's a whole different. It actually opened up a whole different new levels of, access and inclusion by simply, having this, section being read down. It kicked off an entire list of visibility for the community. A case that was actually going on for several years suddenly started showing up on media, and then people started understanding, okay, what is Section 377? What does it even entail? And then they learn about the LGBT community. With that, we also started having a very positive portrayal in the media, which we didn't see that actually was happening before. Be it just news, be it films, all of it started having a very, very positive portrayal after Section 377 went away. then we had a lot of community members then starting to realize, if you had asked me about a few years ago when this case started, would you ever see this day, Felix? I don't think I would have personally said yes. On to 2018, this day would have come, but it did come. So that just suddenly, made us all realize our demand for our rights is getting a lot more realistic than we thought the last night before. And what that also entailed is that a lot of folks, started coming out in huge numbers with confidence. With so much of confidence, they said, we are not going to be in the closet anymore. And this is our moment and we're going to take it. And once that was kicked off, then we saw a whole generation of supportive parents coming out and saying, I'm going to stand by my kid, irrespective of what their gender identity is, what their sexual orientation is. My kid is my kid. And we had that entire thing coming. So it has been a very tremendous progress in terms of how the community has seen themselves post 377. Don't we have still, the question is like, hey, do you not have any problems anymore? Well, we do. There are a whole list of other things that has to be achieved and gone through, but in no short ways to say, what the achievement has been gotten so far. And one of the very important things that I want to also talk about is how the legal system itself has become very approachable post this verdict, right? So the Supreme Court of India, being the apex court, saying what they said just kicked off a whole new level of access to the legal system. The lower court started, taking a cue from that judgment and starting giving away a lot of positive, LGBT positive judgments. It started from saying, we should start criminalizing conversion therapy. We should look at the medical textbooks that are homophobic, transphobic, and how do we make that more positive to the community? All of that got kicked off. And I think this is just the beginning of it. And I'm really, really looking forward to getting a lot of things changed over the period of time.
So thanks, Felix. And I think rightly said, while this community has made progress, but, it still continues to face the societal challenges, including mindset barriers, cultural discrimination, and hence driving sensitization and providing a safe and open environment to them will be a key. If you look at the next slide, right, and extending to what Felix shared on the legal system becoming more approachable, the current legal status expects employees to be more forthcoming and open about their sexual orientation and gender identity. Additionally, they are also encouraging companies to provide equal opportunities to all, both while hiring or during the entire employment cycle. Also, they have asked organizations to have policy on prevention and redressal of discrimination, harassment, and most important, embrace a much wider and inclusive meaning of equal opportunity. If you also look at the legal judgment passed so far, the decriminalization of homosexuality in the Navtej Johar judgment, and it has been one of the biggest judgments, it holds special relevance for transgender rights, which stated that it doesn't matter how minuscule is the LGBT section, they have the right to privacy, which includes physical intimacy. Their choice of partner might be different, but it does not mean they will be prosecuted for that. However, if you look at our constitution, it is liberal. It is not possible that right of choice will be absolute. Therefore, some restrictions have been imposed on the principle of choice. Additionally, employees should also follow some statutory guidelines, including non-disclosure of sensitive personal information, and that is the key from the basic guidelines perspective. If we look at what are the legal pending cases, or rather what are the pending perspectives that's yet there, is that there needs to be a fresh look on personal laws related to marriage, adoption, and succession, and surrogacy or same-sex marriage, etc. Talking about the legal progress made so far, employers have to ensure that all policies are gender neutral. That's important. Most important, adopt gender-neutral sexual harassment at work policy. So irrespective whether you are male or female, it has to be gender-neutral. Also ensure equal remuneration act and treat everyone equal. And also implement the Right of Person with Disability Act. Corporate India, if we go to see, is championing the case for the LGBTQ inclusion more than ever. Going forward, all group companies, subsidiaries, and joint ventures would extend all benefits admissible under law to all categories of employees, irrespective of their sexual orientation and marital status. Multinationals and Indian companies alike are increasingly walking the talk when it comes to embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion in workplace. In next slide, what you're going to see is the roadmap in building the network in India. But most important is that when you build, you need to ensure sustenance, including long-term strategy and the desired outcome. As I shared earlier, the bank has always been a progressive employer. While this network was active in multiple countries, in India, we commenced this network in 2018. However, even before we continued to operate in complete awareness of gender neutrality, we continued to foster a core culture of values, one of them being inclusive and treating each customer, client, and teammate as an individual and ensure that the moment that matters is given to them. Trust me when I say this, our aim was just not to create a program or run with it. The same can be created by anyone, anytime. But the most important aspect was the foundation of handling inclusivity. If fundamentals are not in right place, nothing will succeed. With that in mind, we started our journey. We focused on inclusivity and built our engagement communication routines around it. We were in no rush to start, asking people to come out at work. We were in no rush to see that, hey, how many ally count have we received? Just that, we just focused to see that how do we communicate, how do we engage, how do we sensitize, made employees more comfortable in their coming out process. Even today, we let our work through the network do the talking and inspire employees to come out of the closet. Also, what helped us was leveraging the power of our global network. We learned a lot from them and started preparing ourselves to support the group. One important aspect is to build a team of enthusiasts, right? Whenever you're starting a network, when you're starting a program, it's very important that the team that you build are enthusiasts who work towards a common goal, who strive towards the organization and the vision that the organization has when it comes to equality. If you have the right set of team building the network and executing the plan, there is definitely no looking back. Building and sustaining requires a lot of planning and perseverance. If you see, we started small and kept building the core group. We started talking, building ideas, created confidence. The first visible difference we did was to create the gender-neutral washroom. Additionally, employees who were out at work, we took them along in the journey, and Sai and Felix are testimonies to that. Also, we started evaluating the best practices, took suggestions as to what we do will make a difference. We also engaged with the NGOs to get perspective on the entire LGBTQ plus work. We connected with external agencies who were active in this community, and their inputs helped us carve the path for future. Given we were the newest network in India, we needed the guidance at every path. We included our out at work leaders from other regions where the network was well established, and we also included them in our brainstorming and execution plan. We invited our out at work leaders visiting India to share their experience on bank culture and resources available to support employees in their journey. We also ensured that the learning and education continued at every point of time. Mirroring, executing what was already going well across the enterprise ensured for us to have a long-lasting, sustainable plan which we could move forward. We also ensured that we did this in a gradual way, right? Nothing that we did was just overnight. It was a slow, steady process without anyone realizing that we were trying to do different or make a different across employee base. So if I have to cover the roadmap, in India in building the LGBTQ network, I will say build it in 3 stages. First, how will you launch? That's more important, right? You have to do your pre-work and then accordingly launch. Then how would you grow would be your second stage. And last will be in terms of how would you sustain. Building requires a lot of groundwork, right? And that would include industry researches, leadership buy-in, policy intervention, and visible engagement. And once you have launched the network, how do you grow and sustain is the key. Educating organization about the community, educating them about the role each one plays goes a long way. The effort honestly has to be owned by all and not just the core team or the LGBTQ leaders driving this network within the organization. Continuous engagement, driving pride events, ensuring participation are few drivers to grow and sustain. Also, it's not about building what you have already laid down, but more on the innovation you bring in. You will have to look at adding different flavors to make the network shine and sustain. Once you have your allies and out at work employees, then what, right? It's the network is just not about having, hey, I have these many allies or I have these many out at work, right? That's not the success metric of a network. The network should also focus in giving them platform to be visible, and showcase their potential to the larger audience, to the larger community, and to the larger team. Unless you don't share your story on commitment or be visible in your support, you will never be able to sustain what you have already grown. In the next slide, what you're going to see is our journey through the course of time. Bank of America, India chapter started in 2018. The chapter, through the course of years, has made remarkable progress in attracting allies and out at work employees, and it's created a culture of inclusion and belonging. However, to ensure long-term growth and sustainability, we constantly look at our framework and create new ideas that enhances engagement, culture of inclusiveness, and learning through leveraging stories. What you see here is a long-term sustainable growth trajectory of inclusion efforts in our organization and experiences and ideas explored for growing a culture of belonging through engaging stories and workplace practices. In 2018, our focus was more on global engagement, reviewing policies, enrolling ally, and most importantly, educating them to be visible allies. In 2019, we shifted our engagement and included participation in external forums, industries. We also made our allies visible by placing tent cards at their workstations so that employees knew who were allies and what does it mean to be an ally. We also educated employee population through storyboard on the importance of equality and community. We had the opportunity to make a difference during the Pride Month, and I must say the activity we planned grew our ally count exponentially. Additionally, we leveraged all leaders visiting India, including our out at work leaders, and initiated courageous conversation discussions with them, thus embracing diversity. Just when we thought, team, that we have things in control and we will be able to execute our long-term strategy, pandemic hit us in 2020. And that's the reason it became even more incumbent on us to ensure how do we engage our employees and educate them around the network, even in this remote setup. We had to look at innovative ideas to sustain what we have built and at the same time see the network growing. So what we did, we influenced our leaders, made them walk the talk on leading diverse talents. We ensured to drive activities even in remote posture. Let it be Pride Month, educating employees and ally, making the network visible, sensitization and communication on various policies and the things that we were doing for the community and the network. Our efforts really paid off when we saw our ally and out at work count increase significantly. In fact, very interestingly, during the remote posture, we had many of our first and the entire team, the entire organization was super proud about it, that that we just didn't continue or sustained the network, but we were able to grow. We were able to get newer ideas, newer perspective, and get in, affluent speakers from out. So let it be the courageous conversation with industry-leading external LGBTQ speakers, or let it be the Pride Month engaging activities via selfies, pictures, or training our in-house core team to conduct ally one-on-one training, or sharing Pride stories. We also provided global platform to our Out and Equal employees who got a seat at the table and represented India chapter and shared perspective and best practices. Under Love Has No Labels theme, we started sharing journey and life experience of our Out at Work employees on global platform. So we are also making the the LGBTQ network visible through other existing networks. So we do have networks on Women in Technology and Operation Group, LEAD. So there are a lot of networks that bank promotes and strives for. So through network, we have multiple sites in India. So it's called as an individual market. So there too, there are a lot of activities driven to engage employees, to engage allies, and to showcase the work done for the community. As we share this, or rather, as I'm walking you through what we've done, we are also preparing to educate our people managers, HR, and relevant stakeholders on workplace inclusive guide and the roles and responsibility each one play in ensuring an inclusive environment. So this is the journey, but sharing fast facts or few facts that acts as testimony to all the efforts that has gone in building the LGBTQ network here in India. First, as I mentioned, and I'm going to keep saying this, that we significantly increased our ally membership, and it is just not about adding the number to the overall count, but it is about how the allies have come together, created a vision, created a path, for this network, and you're going to see and hear more about it in the coming slides. Also, we increased our Out at Work employees because they were comfortable to come out. They were comfortable to whatever the organization has done for them and the community. Introduction of gender neutral washroom, as I said, that this was one of the first thing that we did. Inclusion of domestic partner insurance benefit, extremely well received. And during the pandemic, I think that was the need of the hour. All our policies and procedures are gender neutral. Employee gender transition enablement. This was the first of a kind that we had. A lot of learnings there, but at the end, it was a very successful transition. Our in-house committee to handle LGBTQ employee grievance, that's a big one. Also, our Out at Work employees provided global platform to interact and share perspective. And we have been participating in the Out and Equal Summit, and in 2019 we won the Out and Equal Award, and we are also the recipients of 2019 and 2020 Global D&I Award, and I think the award is itself a testimony to the work that we are doing for the community and ensuring an inclusive environment. While I know I have shared a lot, but I would really want you to hear from Felix, about how this network has helped him evolve, being an Out at Work employee. So Felix, over to you.
Thanks, Deepti. I'm probably going to start answering that with talking about how I ended up choosing to be an Out at Work employee, right? So this is about pre-2018 when we haven't still started the network in full swing. So we just start off with an ally network. So one of the senior leaders at that point, who was the sponsor for the network, actually kicked off the entire work with saying, hey, you know what, we are starting an LGBT ally program, so folks should just come and join. At the moment I looked at it, I knew I wanted to join the program, but I was always like, oh, it's just for allies, right? What am I, a member of the LGBT community going to do it? But I said, okay, I'm going to join it. So I joined it, and then when the leader opened it up for questions, the first question I popped her to ask her is like, hey, you know what? I'm absolutely excited about the fact that we have an ally network, but do we also plan to engage the out at work employees? And I believe I was just like very clear as to what my motto was, or at least I thought so. And then right when the call gets over, I have Sai, one of the co-panelists, pinging me and saying, yes, you know what, we have plans, and that's why I am reaching out to you. So that's where my journey of being out at work actually kind of started. And I have an equally exciting story as to how it actually went from there, right? So the moment I said, okay, yes, I want to be out at work, and how do I contribute? And then it just opened up a plethora of avenues for me. And I should really mention the fact that my leadership was very much, involved, and they were very much willing to listen to what I have to say. And I'm this new out at work person who's like excited to get like multiple things done, right? But then we actually list down all of it. We look at what is like something that we can immediately achieve, what needs more research, what we can do, and a whole lot of conversations and activities started from there. And well, you just pretty much summarized it very well as to where we are right now, and that's how I see my out at work journey so far. And beyond 2021, I'm really looking forward to accomplish more things.
Great, Felix. Thank you. In fact, it would really be great if you could share that how we go about building the event calendar. So on the next slide, it's pretty much on the entire 2021 approach that we've had. So Felix, do you just want to share how did we go about creating, building, and what was the thought process that we had?
Absolutely. Thank you, Deepti. So the colorful calendar that you all are seeing is like one of my highlights of the year. We do that at start of every year. We pick up to see, okay, what did we do last year? And we always ask us the question, what we can do better this year, right? We pull out all the milestones and every different event that we can conduct last year. And then we look at, the engagement levels we had for each one of those events. And then we say, hey, you know what, is there something that we can actually do different this year than we did last year? This event had a better engagement because of this model. Can we do that again? Do we have to do it differently? So the all sort of brainstorming that goes in the start of the year, and then we bring about this very colorful table and say, oh, you know what, I think we've got it to a point, but we still need a lot more to accomplish. Then we actually get our leadership involved, get their buy-in and sponsorship to a lot of these events. And then there is this whole new thing about budgeting, right? A lot of these, events and programs will require budget. Then how do we then go procure the budget for it? And then we start planning and stuff like that. So once we get this calendar, well, that's just the start of it, right? And then we watch out to say, hey, you know what, this event is coming up in X amount of time. Then how do we start working them? A few weeks, or even in some cases, a month in advance, we start working to see, what, this event will require this amount of work, and how do we actually segue into it, and have people work on it, and then put them all together. And then finally on the day of the event, we say, yes, this is exactly how we wanted it. And I believe every one of the time we did come up with if I may say so myself, that we come out with a very, very colorful event, just as much the calendar is. Back to you, Deepti.
Couldn't agree more, Felix. And rightly said, right? Year on year, we look at what's gone by, what we could have done, what we could have improved, and accordingly build the calendar at the start of the year. And most importantly, the core team is answerable month on month whether they have done the activity as committed and promised. And that's how, even in the remote environment, I think we've done much more activities than we would have done in a normal working environment. So I think rightly said. I want to ask Sai this question. Sai, you've 4 years now into the network, and it's a balance, right? We've had a good time while we were in office, and also 2 years good time while we are in the remote posture. Felix spoke about the events. Felix spoke about how we are engaging our people. Do you see any difference, to what we were and to what we are now when it comes to driving events?
Sure. So, in fact, I think Felix have covered the events part in terms of what are the kind of events and what all we need to think about when we are really planning for an event and stuff, right? And to your question in terms of whether we have actually made a difference between what it was before versus what it is now, a lot, I would say, a lot. And then, in fact, you were also talking about sustaining, right? So actually sustaining a momentum is not really an easy thing to do. So it requires, I would say that someone needs to really sign up their time and then they need to have a lot of patience, because in case they remember, if in case they think that the cause is something closer to their heart, then people do come forward. And then most of the people that we have are people who come forward with that intent in their mind. And then, as we usually say, right, changes do not happen overnight, and especially when it comes to changes that have to do with the social acceptance and attitudinal related changes, right, when it comes to inclusion. So so our challenge when we had to really move into remote kind of a setup was that how is that we continue to do everything that we do otherwise when we were in office, and how does the technology support us, and will we have the same kind of a environment which otherwise we have in office, right? At least we have an eye contact with the people, and then we start seeing, which is not the case at this point in time, right? So for that, yes, a continuous engagement with the community and the allies, right? That was one thing which was which I would like to thank the management for ensuring that all of this is happening, the core team and the management. And then the second thing is when we are messaging it back to the allies, to the larger employee base, and to the out-at-work employees, what are the unique and impactful ways in which we are going to do that messaging, right? So, in fact, we usually say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So, how do we ensure we bring all of those things in terms of creating an environment where people do not feel that they are now actually at home, and then this is not their cup of tea, right? So so if you see, I mean, if you can actually move over to the next slide, we can take some of those snippets which are all there in terms of how we were when we were at office versus how things have changed when we were in the remote environment. While there at that point of time, we all used to sit in conference rooms, and then we used to internally connect and then click pictures. But at this point of time, we do connect remotely, click the pictures, but later stitch them together into a collage and then look at them and smile. I mean, whenever I look at these pictures, I really smile. I mean, that smile comes from the bottom of my heart, this one and the next and stuff, right? Because it's not that we are in the remote kind of an environment, but it's like, what is the cause that we believe in and how we are able to sustain it, and then how we all are able to come together. And then those pictures are actually helping us out, right? Okay, fine, I'm a part of this community, and this community is still growing, and then the community makes me bring my whole selves to work. So I mean, Kes, we can see some of these examples in terms of sensitization, ongoing sensitization and communication. So we can see some of these cute pictures in terms of the purple day, the pink day, the ally celebration days, and then you can even see the articles which are published, right, where some of our colleagues who are, I say lucky because they have found their partners and then they are leading a good life and they were able to share their stories. And then there were also stories in terms of gender transition that some of our colleagues were going through, where organization was supportive and they were able to come back and share their stories with the rest of the team, which were pretty inspirational. And then ongoing motivation and inspiration from the leadership and management. These all made us sustain this momentum. These all made us believe that, fine, I mean, this is not just that we are in the virtual environment and so these things do not happen. No. So we were able to make much more progress in the virtual environment as well, even though it's more remote. So
thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So I think, Sai, you beautifully explained, and when you were sharing, it definitely also got a smile on my face when I was looking at the pictures. That the event is always colorful, and the passion with which people come together, whether it was the normal environment, whether it's the virtual environment, says it all. That how much inclusivity means to them. So thank you for reiterating that. If we go to the next slide, right, one of our other topic is about championing inclusion. Who is responsible, right, when it comes to creating an inclusive workplace or environment? And Sai, since I have you with me, let me also ask you, who has been the champion in your life to create an inclusive work environment for you? I mean, anyone that you would want to talk about who has supported you in this journey and been a real true champion?
No, absolutely. I would say that there are many champions who has influenced, and then in fact, as I went through, right, I mean, sometimes I get emotional when I talk about champions, because I think there are a number of corporate leaders, politicians, and the journalists. We have media personalities. We have certain sports personalities. There is a story associated with each of them who are all out, right? I mean, today, if the community has reached at this stage between what it is today versus what it was some 30, 40 years back, it's a tremendous progress which has been made. And then that was only possible with all of these champions really coming out who excel in their fields and who were not shy to come out, who believed in the equality, who were ready to even lose some of the status, because at that point of time when they were about to come out, the community was perceived much more negatively. They were ready to lose their opportunities as well and come out. So these activists, I would rather call them as activists. So we have these stories, and the good part today is that the internet, it is helping us to closely go back and look at what their stories are. We are really able to look at them. That is really motivating and inspiring us that we all can make a difference. And then, in fact, this difference can help the upcoming generations make this world a much better place to live, right? I mean, there are still certain countries where the community really faces a very, very hardships, even to just come out, right? That could be a big capital punishment. So the same thing goes even from an organization as well. I do see good examples in our leaders who are true champions, who continuously inspire and motivate. It kinds of tells me that, okay, fine, there's a lot to do. And then there are times when I feel a little low. At that point of time, I go and I watch some of those YouTube videos, which continues to encourage me in terms of their stories, right? When they tell about their stories, the messages that they provide, they are motivating. And same thing goes even internally as well. So many of them, and then truly hats off to everybody.
So thanks, Sai. And I guess we all are champions, right? Diversity and inclusion champion helps in reducing or removing the bias and discrimination that employees face regarding It could be their skin color, customs, language, sexual orientation, or anything. The designated role of a champion, is to spread awareness about the issues related to diversity and inclusion, and also promote equality, in the team. What you see here are the roles and responsibilities of each designated champion. Our first champion are the people managers who need to ensure that they are inclusive in their hiring, interaction, and raising awareness of unconscious biases in their power of influence, and most important, respect confidentiality and sensitiveness. Moving to the employees, they equally play an important role, in ensuring inclusive work environment. They are the ones who act as the support system, and it becomes incumbent on them to get themselves educated on the community. Also, at the same time, respect confidentiality and ensure that they are familiar with the org strategy, right? The human resource, they champion this entire cause by ensuring that they bring in industry best practices and constantly evaluate workplace policies to promote equality and fair treatment, and additionally build a committee for grievance handling. Our leaders, who are both, they are the influencers as well as the sponsors, are responsible in bringing the cultural shift in the mindset, on what it means to be an inclusive person. Also hold team accountable to leverage diversity to drive creative problem solving, and so on and so forth. And our last but not the least are our allies, the most effective and powerful voices. I am proud to be an ally, and I'm so sure that so are you. Allies help to dismantle, stereotypes and provide valuable support to individuals who may not have the power, status, or opportunity to influence institutional and systemic change. To be an ally, it is to be an advocate and catalyst for social change. So to sum this slide, right, I can only say that we all are in our own way champion, and we champion inclusion and make the required difference in creating inclusive workplace and environment. And at the same time, it is employers' responsibility, organization responsibility to create these champions, educate them, and provide platform so that they can work towards the common goal of driving equality that will empower people and unlock the potential to uplift their overall well-being and performance. If we move to the next one, right, the next slide, what does it say? Okay, this is just sharing a peek into the offering proposition that matters most during the unprecedented times, not only to employees but their families, right? We can do whatever we want. We can have events, we can have leaders speak, we can have engagement, share success stories. But at the time of need, if we are not available or we do not provide support during the time which really matters the most to them and their family, trust me, everything will be a futile effort, right? So as an organization, we keep evaluating our offerings and ensure that we provide industry-leading benefits to support employees and their families in time of need. Our benefits here, just for ease of reference, categorized it into three most important wellness, being emotional, physical, and financial. Let's move to our emotional wellness front first. We all know that during the pandemic, and Felix also touched upon a little piece of it, that when we were in the pandemic, and folks who had not come out to their family had to be in the same house 24/7 with no route to escape, no route to go to their friend circle, their internal circle, who they are comfortable to come out with. At that point of time, we realized that what can we do to support them? And that's when the employee assistance program also played a very important role. Here, there are counseling sessions available 24/7 to employees. If employees or their family members are looking for advice on any personal issues, there are trained counselors who are available to assist them. Also, we included the My Strength app. This is a free online and mobile program that offers personalized activities to support employees and their families' emotional health and wellness. One has access to positivity training tools, a daily mood tracker, inspirational videos, articles to keep them navigating through these difficult times. Also, our life event services. This is the bank in-house specialist team that supports employees to navigate during significant life events such as terminal illness, medical accommodation, transgender support, critical event support, domestic violence, etc. Additionally, we also, in partnership with Thrive Global, we came up with this emotional wellness and resiliency training, which would help employees to manage stress, build resiliency, and avoid burnout. Uh, Also, another important aspect on the emotional wellness is that as an organization, we've taken a strong stance on having a harassment-free workplace. It started with safety. Now there's equity in terms of coverage. If I move to financial wellness, as during the discussion we mentioned that we had our very first gender transition, case in our organization, or rather in India. So through the entire learning, we are covering the gender transition in terms of medical coverage, hospitalization, etc., and giving end-to-end support to the LGBTQ plus employees, wishing to get themselves transitioned. Also, we are the firm believers that. It is a belief that it fosters a culture of innovation and leverages multiple talent pools that exist in a rich demography like us. And that's the reason we would want to invest in our LGBTQ employees. And the tuition assistance program is also one of the elements that we've added, where the bank is committed to a continuous learning culture that encourages and assists employees to learn new skills and develop professionally. So not only we give them an inclusive environment, but we also give them the platform to educate, to upskill, and to carve out their own career path. On the physical wellness front, right, during this pandemic, we realized that access to hospitals, doctors were out of reach. So what we did, we introduced the medical helpline for employees and their registered domestic partners to have free audio, video consultation with general physicians or specialist doctors. And that definitely went a long way. From a medical insurance coverage perspective, employees could list partners for medical benefits irrespective of gender, sex, or marital status. Our employees can participate in comprehensive health checkup free of cost, and that is definitely the need of the hour during these unprecedented times we are. As the COVID-19 vaccines became more widely available, we took all possible steps to support teammates and their registered domestic partner to get vaccinated. And the kind of acknowledgement, the gratitude, the appreciation that came in from our out at work employees, or even from employees who are not out at work, I think that was great. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to request Felix. Felix, do you want to share your experience, that what has been that one moment, let it be the organization offering, let it be whatever the organization has done, that one moment that has really mattered the most to you? Anything that you would want to share with the audience?
Hey, thanks, Deepti. You asked for one, but I probably want to talk about two of them. And you did touch upon it, during the course of this presentation. But one of the things that really stands with me is how we introduced gender-neutral restrooms, right? So, and I kind of take a bit of pride when I say this, as somebody who kicked off that discussion within the bank, and especially in India. When we started off this, we knew that we wanted to do the right thing, right? We wanted to have a gender neutral restroom, but we didn't know how to go about it. Then we all went and looked at, we researched, and then we came back and said, okay, you know what, this is how we want to go about it. And then we also decided we want to get more international standards, enterprise perspective, and a lot of discussion went in. But we finally, set up the General Noodle restroom, and I'm very, very proud of the day when I walked into office one day, and then I realized, this board that's out there that says, "Hey, this is a General Noodle restroom, and everyone can kind of use it." And very proud to also say that in every India location in the bank right now, at every floor, we have a General Noodle restroom, and that's for me is one of those very big moments where I looked at that washroom, I ran back to my desk, and I wrote a big email to one of the leaders at that time and said, what, we got it. And that was really something that stays back with me. And the other one is about another thing you just touched upon is this gender transition, right? And well, this is what's the time when we just have opened up the gender transition and the policy is in place. We have not done any work in that space, so we also don't know how the policy can be implemented and what's there and what's not. And then I had this opportunity to interact with a transgender colleague who at that point hasn't really come out, and she has just started thinking about a transition and wasn't very sure. And I had this very rare opportunity to actually just connect with her, and I said, what, well, I also don't know much, but I think we probably have somebody that we can talk to within the bank, and there are enough people to help. So we started talking, and that's when I kind of looked at things, and then I brought Deepthi in, right? And Deepthi was like very phenomenally helpful in terms of she pretty much took over the the entire conversation I had with this colleague, and then she just completely helped it through. And then we learned, in fact, I think we all learned from that entire experience as to what does that policy mean, what is that we can improve this policy, how we can actually use this policy, what are the different things that we do. That was not just about, for me, it was not just about helping another colleague, it's all about learning as to what is a policy, how do we actually make a difference. And then one fine day I just see this colleague's name is completely changed on the contacts, and then she has a new picture uploaded, and I was like, oh wow, this is for me it was a moment where you kind of being part of a history where something really different and new happened, and that's something really also stays with me, and I'm pretty sure it's going to stay with me forever. Thank you, Deepthi.
Thanks, Felix. And I think I really love the way you put in, right? That so far from the network, we've only been, putting it in black and white that, okay, we will do this. But when this request came in, I think that was the real testimony that okay, now how do we execute? And so far, I think it was a wonderful journey. And and I think it was definitely great learning. So as an organization, we will keep evolving our policies and collaborate further with organizations and partner with external agency and work towards the betterment of the LGBTQ plus community. So if we just go to the last slide, and that's our concluding slide, that we really hope that all of you were able to learn the framework that we leverage for enhanced engagement and adapt to the same to sustain growth, especially in the virtual environment or the new normal that we all refer to in these unprecedented times. It's still a long road ahead, but measures such as these make a much needed difference. So with that, I come to the end of the session. Thank you, Sai and Felix, for being such a wonderful co-host. And to the rest, thank you all for your participation.